The hours passed slowly in St. Anthony's Medical Center. The lights in the hallways dimmed to their nighttime setting, but for the staff, the work never stopped. Angela moved between patients, her thoughts returning to Evelyn Hargrove. Something about the old woman nagged at her, an intuition she couldn't ignore. Evelyn's condition had remained stable for most of the day, but Angela knew how quickly things could change. The faint tremble in Evelyn's hands and her shallow breathing earlier were warning signs, and Angela couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. By the time Angela returned to Evelyn's room, it was past midnight. The old woman lay propped up on her pillows, her face pale and gaunt. She stirred when Angela entered, her sharp blue eyes narrowing. "You again?" Evelyn's voice was weaker now, but her defiance hadn't faded. "Yes, Mrs. Hargrove," Angela replied calmly. "I'm here to check on you. I noticed earlier that your breathing seemed uneven, and I'd like to make sure everything is all right." "I told you. I don't want your help." Evelyn's words were firm, but they lacked the venom they had carried earlier. Angela hesitated, her gaze falling on the photograph still resting on the bedside table. Something about it tugged at her memory, a face she couldn't quite place. She decided to address the task at hand. "Mrs. Hargrove, I understand how you feel," Angela said gently. "But my job is to ensure you're safe. I'd rather you be angry with me than let something go unnoticed." Evelyn didn't respond, but she didn't stop Angela either. Taking the silence as reluctant permission, Angela began her examination. As she worked, Evelyn's breathing grew more labored. Angela's worry deepened. "Mrs. Hargrove, have you been feeling this way for long?" Evelyn shook her head slightly. "Just tired. So tired." Angela stepped out to alert Dr. Hayes. The doctor arrived quickly, his brow furrowed as he reviewed Evelyn's chart and ordered additional tests. But as he examined her, Evelyn turned her head weakly toward Angela. "I don't want her here," Evelyn murmured, barely audible. Dr. Hayes paused, looking between the two women. "Mrs. Hargrove, Angela is a highly trained nurse. If you want the best care, you need to let her help." Evelyn's lips trembled, but she said nothing more. The tension in the room was thick as the doctor finished his assessment. "Her vitals are concerning," Dr. Hayes said after stepping outside with Angela. "We'll need to run some tests immediately. Keep a close eye on her." Angela nodded, her thoughts racing. Back in Evelyn's room, the atmosphere had changed. The old woman seemed quieter, almost reflective. As Angela adjusted her IV, she caught Evelyn glancing at the photograph on the bedside table. "That's a beautiful photo," Angela said softly, hoping to ease the silence. Evelyn's gaze hardened. "It's none of your business." Angela nodded, stepping back. "I didn't mean to pry." For a moment, it seemed the conversation would end there. But then Evelyn spoke again, her voice tinged with something Angela couldn't quite place. Sadness, maybe, or regret. "That's my daughter," Evelyn said, her eyes fixed on the photograph. "She married a soldier." Angela tilted her head, intrigued. "She looks happy." "She was," Evelyn replied, her voice growing faint, "until she wasn't." Before Angela could ask more, Evelyn turned her head away, signaling the end of the conversation. But Angela couldn't let it go. There was something about the photo, and Evelyn's reaction, that felt significant. The tests ordered by Dr. Hayes revealed troubling results. Evelyn's heart was under severe strain, and she was at risk of a critical event. When Angela relayed the findings to Evelyn, the old woman's reaction was muted. "Doesn't matter," Evelyn murmured. "Not much left for me anyway." Angela crouched beside her, her tone firm but compassionate. "Mrs. Hargrove, that's not true. Every life matters, including yours. But I need you to trust me if we're going to get through this." Evelyn didn't respond, but her silence wasn't defiance. It felt more like surrender. As Angela prepared to leave the room, Evelyn spoke again, her voice so soft Angela almost missed it. "Why do you care so much?" Angela paused, turning back to face her. "Because I believe everyone deserves kindness, Mrs. Hargrove, no matter what." Evelyn's expression didn't change, but Angela could see the faintest flicker of something in her eyes. Confusion, perhaps, or a glimmer of understanding. The next morning, Evelyn's condition worsened. Her breathing became erratic, and her blood pressure plummeted. Angela and Dr. Hayes worked quickly to stabilize her, but the situation was dire. Amid the chaos, Angela noticed something strange. As she adjusted Evelyn's oxygen mask, the old woman's hand brushed against hers. It was an unintentional, fleeting moment, but it felt different, almost like a silent plea. Evelyn's eyes fluttered open, and for the first time, Angela saw fear in them. "I don't want to die," Evelyn whispered. "You won't," Angela replied firmly. "Not if I can help it." The words seemed to linger in the air as Evelyn drifted back into unconsciousness. Later that day, Angela returned to the room. Evelyn was awake, her breathing steadier, but her expression guarded. "I saw you looking at the photo again," Angela said cautiously. "It must mean a lot to you." Evelyn sighed heavily. "It's all I have left." Angela hesitated before asking, "What happened to your daughter?" Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. She married a black man, against my wishes. I told her she'd regret it, and she did." Angela's heart ached at the admission, but she pressed gently. "What happened?" "They had a son," Evelyn said, her voice trembling. "But she died in childbirth. I blamed him. I couldn't forgive him for taking her away." Angela realized the depth of Evelyn's pain. Her prejudice wasn't just born of ignorance, it was fueled by grief and misplaced blame. But before Angela could respond, an alarm sounded from the monitor. Evelyn's heart rate was spiking dangerously. Nurses and doctors rushed into the room, and Angela was forced to step back, her heart pounding. As the medical team worked to stabilize Evelyn, Angela's mind raced. She couldn't shake the feeling that the old woman's story and her connection to the photograph held the key to understanding her. The scene ended with Evelyn's condition still precarious, leaving Angela and the viewers wondering, would Evelyn survive? And could Angela help her find peace before it was too late? To be continued.